Hi, I hope you're having a really great week. And I've had a really great weekend away with friends with our house trucks and house buses. So I've been asked to do a tutorial for the shawl that I made here. It's been absolutely lovely. I've been wearing it as a scarf in the front, but I also bought some, I showed you in another video, I bought some of these lovely brooches so I can wear it as a little shawlette over my shoulders. This is actually a hairpin, but I thought it was too gorgeous, so I'd wear that as a shawl pin. So that would look really nice in the evening when you're wearing something. And you can use big buttons too. Jean from On the Hook Crochet does her shawlettes and uses big buttons sometimes. So it's really lovely. I'm really enjoying having this, and everyone's giving me compliments. So this was the Hobby from the Hobby.com website, HOBBI.com, or Hobby. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's a dream colour, 100% wool. So this colour was number 2, and it's called Winter on the website, but it's not on the label, so I wrote it on. And it's absolutely lovely. Now I just change up how many rows of trebles. It's just trebles and chain spaces. That's all it is. And I just change up. I just change it all the time. I do whatever I like, or I might forget to stop doing rows of trebles, so I end up with 3 instead of 2. So you can do it anyhow you like. It's just beautiful pattern. It's just a simple go-to basic pattern. This is the one I've been doing. I started a new one. It's for my friend's birthday. She's turning 81 in December. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. This is also from Hobby. It's the Moonlight Bumbo, 98% acrylic, 2% polyester. This is the number 104, and even on the website it doesn't have a name. This is 462 metres in this ball, so it's really good value. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. And the other ones were 400 metres, if I forgot to say that. So this time I'm using this colour, and this is going back to the dream colour. This is number 11 colour, and it's called Chromatic on the website. So they're tweedy. They've got a tweed colour, 2 colours in them. So they're just lovely. So I'm going to get you started on how I do this very simple pattern. I'm using 2 stitch markers. If you don't have stitch markers, then get a piece of thread. Sometimes it can be a little bit helpful, especially with a thinner yarn. And you might want 3 stitch markers. So I just start off and I go around my finger twice, hold it down, pick up the back one, come forward, pick up the new back one and go right over my finger. And that's how I do my slip knot. Took me ages to learn one, and everyone's different. So you just do what suits you. You hold your hook how it suits you, and you hold your yarn how it suits you. Oops. So we're going to chain 4. Then we're going to yarn over and go right back into that very first stitch here. But before I do that, I'm actually going to put a stitch marker in this last chain up here that I did. You'll see why later, because this is actually act as our first treble, but you'll see why. So yarn over and take it through that stitch. It depends on whether you've picked up 1 or 2. It didn't matter at this stage, but later on make sure you do pick up 2 loops. Then yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through your last 2. So you've now got 2 treble, because that chain acts as your first treble, and there is a stitch marker in the top of my treble, which is the top of the chain, and you'll actually need that later. So yarn over and do a 3rd treble into that same first stitch, then chain 2, which will be the center of your shawl, and then 3 more trebles into that very same stitch. That's 1, 2, all working in the very same stitch. And there's your very first row. It's easy. really easy to get started. I use this as a basis now for every shawl I'm making at the moment. So when you sew up your ends, you can just, if this won't pull tight, then you can just sew it up, but it matches as you're going up your shawl. So it's really pretty. So I'm going to do another row of trebles. So you can chain one and turn, or turn and chain one. I don't know why, but I always turn and then I'll chain one. That chain one counts as nothing. It just helps you turn. So yarn over, do 2 treble right back in the very beginning stitch, right there underneath that chain you just did. Pick up 2 loops. So from now on, always make sure you're picking up 2 loops. So do a treble in there. And when I've finished this treble now, I'm going to put a stitch marker, just picking up those 2 loops for that treble. I never thought I'd use stitch markers, but actually I'll tell you what, they're really handy with this. I think it's because it's such thin yarn and I have trouble finding the end, the last stitch. So then yarn over and go back into that very first, I'll just get that out of the way, that's where you were before in here. You can see the stitch coming out of it. So go right back into there and do a second treble into there. That is really important. That's how you increase at the beginnings and the ends of your row. So now you've got 2 treble into there and you've got your stitch marker on that very first one. So yarn over and work 1 treble into your stitches as you go up, making sure you pick up 2 loops. Yarn over, go into the next stitch, pick up 2 loops, and that's how you work up your shawl. And now we're already back at the centre here, the chain space, so we're going to do 2 trebles into that great big chain space. 1, go right into the big space, 2, then 2 chain, and then 2 more trebles right back into that same big chain space. So you're always also increasing into the middle here. Then we're going to go back down this side, yarn over, and we'll find your stitches back down this side, picking up 2 loops, and we'll just do a treble, yarn over, and we'll find a stitch there, and then yarn over, and we're back at our stitch marker. So I just give it a bit of a tug with the hands each side, and I go right back where that stitch marker is, and I do a treble, but because it's the last end of the row, I'm going to do a second one. Make sure I don't twist it, and I get back in that same space. And so that's what I'm using the stitch markers for, because I'm having so much trouble finding that last stitch. So that's your second row. It's all just trebles, 2 into the first stitch. Don't forget to do 2 treble, 2 chain, and 2 treble as you move up the middle, and 2 trebles into the very last stitch. So then I turn my work and chain 1. You might want to chain 1 and turn your work. Counts as nothing. Then do your 2 trebles in the beginning here to do your increasing. Even on your chain space rows, don't forget to do your 2 there. So I'm just going to move my stitch marker up, sometimes you think it's a bit tedious, and if I miss out doing it, I regret it. So I've learnt, don't be lazy, Trish, move your stitch markers. So yarn over and just do your second treble into that same first space. Now normally I'll start my chain spaces here, but I'm actually going to do a 3rd row of trebles, only because this colour to me looks warmer. The beautiful blues and greens, it looks warm, so I want to make it a little bit less holy. So I'm just going to do 1 treble into each chain space, as I will work my way up this side of the shawl. Make sure you get both loops, and there's no rush. It's a lovely relaxing hobby. Then we're back at our middle chains as I'm going up the shawl, so yarn over and do 2 treble, 2 chain, and then 2 treble right into that same chain space. That runs up the middle of your shawl. Then I'll continue to do my 1 treble into each stitch going back down the other side. And you can always pause the video to keep up, and you can always go over and have another look again if you're a beginner and not sure of something. And then when I get right to the end where the chain space is, I just give it a tug with both lots of fingers so I can get my hook in there, and it's the end, so I'm going to do 2 treble. So now you've done 3 rows. Beautiful colour again. So I'm going to turn my work, and I'll do my 1 chain, and then I'll do my increasing 2 treble on the end, and move up my stitch marker. So I'll do my 2nd treble into that same space. Now I'm going to do my chain spaces. So chain 2, yarn over, miss 2, 1, 2, and go into the 3rd, and do your treble. Then chain 2, yarn over, miss 2, 1, 2, go into your 3rd. Make sure you're always picking up both loops. Finish your treble. Chain 2, yarn over, miss 2. My 3rd one happens to be the chain space. That's fine. So I do my 2 treble into there. My 2 chain, and the 2 treble back into that same space, because this is the middle one going up your shawl. Now this is, sometimes you might want to put a stitch marker in these centre ones so you don't get them mixed up with the side ones, but you can usually see it. So now I'm going to do 2 chain to work down the other side doing my chain spaces. So miss 1, 2 and go into the 3rd. Chain 2, 1, 2, 3, I go into the 3rd, chain 2, yarn over, go into the 3rd, which happens to be where my stitch marker is. So I'll give it a bit of a tug so I can get in there easily. Grab my yarn, come back through, finish my treble. But I'll do a second one in there because it's the end of my row, so just give it a bit of a tug so I can get in there, grab my yarn, bring it through. You'll find your own way. Finish my treble. And so now you've got your row of chain spaces. So now to make sure you don't have too many less stitches, not enough, you go back and you pick them up again. So I'm just going to chain my one to turn. So again we're going to do 2 trebles into this very first space here, picking up both loops, yarn over, go through, and I'm going to move my stitch marker up so yarn over and do my second treble into that same space. Now there's a stitch here, you don't want to miss it. Pick up both loops. If you miss it, then you'll not have enough stitches to be doing your increasing. Yarn over. Now we're at our chain space, so because we've missed 2, we're going to put 2 trebles in there to replace the stitches that we didn't do. So we've just done 2 trebles into that big space. Then yarn over, and then you've got your treble here, so you go onto the top of that treble, picking up both stitches, and then we're back at a chain space, so we'll put 2 trebles in there, yarn over, and we add another treble, so we go into the top of that one, picking up both loops, back at a chain space, so we put 2 in there, so if you only missed one space and went into the second, then you'd only put 1 treble in there to replace it. So yarn over, so there's a chain there, we pick up both loops there, yarn over, there's one more before we get to the centre, so we don't want to miss that one. And then we're in our centre, so we're going to do 2 trebles in here, two chain and 2 treble. Every time you get to the peak of your shawl, 2 treble, 2 chain, 2 treble. And then I'm going to work my way doing trebles into each stitch down the other side. There's another one here. So there's no rush, just look carefully if you're learning to make sure you don't miss any of these stitches. So we're 2 into this chain space. And when I first started, I had to watch videos like 10 times to know what I was doing. So we go into this one here. So I used to watch videos, pause them, do a stitch, watch it again. So 2 into this chain space. So I've only been crocheting since July. And now I just like to show people how easy it is. There's no stress. Go into this one. I'm not even doing fancy stitches. It's all just trebles and chain spaces that I do, but it's the wool that makes it look beautiful. So 2 into this chain space. The colours of your wool can make the same pattern look totally different. Yarn over, so there's 2 down here, so I'll go into this one first. And then I'm right at the very end. I'll to stretch it out so I can get my hook into the space, and because that's the end, you'll do 2. Whoops, did I forget to yarn over? That's better. Sorry about that. Yarn over before I go into my stitches for my trebles. So I've done 2 in there because that's the end of the row and it's my increasing. So there you are. That's what your shawl's looking like. Isn't it gorgeous? So I'll just show you again once more how easy it is. I'm just going to get some more wool. But that's your pattern, and you can, the repeats you do are totally up to you. So I'm going to keep doing 3 trebles, chain spaces, 3 trebles, chain spaces, whereas before I was doing 2 and chain spaces and 3. I was changing it up. So I'm going to do 2 more here, but I'll do 1 more row just to show you how to move up your. So I've turned and I'll do my 1 chain. You can do it the other way. Yarn over, I put 2 into the very beginning, 2 into the beginning, 2 into the end, and you're increasing in the middle. So you can see how simple it is. Yarn over and I'll go the second treble right in that first one. Don't forget to do your second trebles, and then 1 treble into each stitch as I go up the side. I love doing simple basic stitches